Hello, everybody. Welcome to my next episode of Personal Brand Mechanics interview series. My name is Peter Sterlacci, and I'm the founder of Believe, Become, Be Your Brand, where I work with individuals who want to uncover, communicate, and manage their personal brands for both their career and life success. Now, I started this interview series some time ago because I've come across some pretty interesting people in my work, people who I am now calling mechanics of personal branding. And what I mean by that is that they have tools and techniques and strategies that can really help any one of us to build, maintain, and even repair our personal brands. And so today I'm really happy to welcome my new mechanic for today, Anastasia, I already messed it up. Anastasia, thank you so much. I apologize for that. Anastasia Ashman, thank you so much for joining our call today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Peter. I'll just say my name again in case anybody gets confused about this. But basically, it's the American Anastasia.
Anastasia.
So yeah, you went for something much more difficult
I know,
than
I'm
that.
so sorry. And the funny thing is that when we started the call, I'd asked you, please tell me how to pronounce your name, and boom, I got it wrong. Hey, this is live video. That's all right. Well, thanks again for joining us. And so I just want to jump right into our first question. And the thing is, when I read your profile, both on LinkedIn and on your website, there's really one thing that really jumped out for me, and I'm going to read this because I love this. I mean, you said that you've been on a global roller coaster, fired in Hollywood, abandoned on a snake-infested island off Borneo, married in an Ottoman palace, and interviewed by Matt Lauer on the Today Show. Now, that's a pretty powerful statement right there, and I'm wondering, how does this really define you? Is this basically your personal brand?
Well, yeah, I think that the two things that I think or I hope that it captures are well, my hybridity, that I've actually been a lot of places, and I've both worked and clearly been married into another culture, but also that I've had this sort of very extreme ups and downs,
Mm,
and that I've actually bounced back from them. That it doesn't end with me lost on the island. Okay,
right.
I'm not like never heard from again. I have been lost, but I have been found too. And so I think the second thing is my resilience.
Right.
So hybridity and resilience, I hope, are the things that come out of that.
Well, that's kind of cool. So then maybe like if you were to ask people to kind of pick words that would perhaps define you, like what are your attributes? Maybe those would be a couple words that they would pick. Now, I'm curious. Now, how did you run into Matt Lauer?
Well, I didn't run into him, but he found me. His producers found me based on an online presence for a book that I created and published.
Right,
So,
right.
and it wasn't even a good website, but the website had clearly all the information that Google needed in order for them to find me.
Exactly, and that really, I mean, I think that's kind of the one thing I want to talk to you about because you're co-founder of an organization called globalniche.net, and can you tell us a little bit about what you do and the audience that you serve?
Well, actually, and when you say organization, it sounds very important,
Yes.
but it's a pretty small operation, but it is actually something that has organically grown out of
Mm,
my experience as an expat, and what we learned, me and my expat community learned about how can we operate, how can we be okay where we are, how
mm,
can we actually continue growing and developing and connecting to who and what we love, no matter where we are. And I had a group blog for a couple of
hmm.
years after I published the book that I mentioned, Expat Harem. And at the group blog, we talked about all of these problems that we had as
Mm,
sort of cross-cultural personalities, people who had like a lot of commitments in different worlds. And how could we make sense of that? But also, how could we, advance our careers? How could we,
right.
stay in touch with our families? All of these things. And so, after that group blog, after like 200 posts or whatever, I said, you know what?
Mm,
It's time to like turn to the practicalities of this, and like
right.
let's lay out how do we do this, because other people want to know too.
Mm,
And so
hmm,
that's what global niche is the practice of doing this by
hmm.
using social technology, mobile technology, and this general idea of the fact that you have what you need
Right,
and you can use it where you are.
right.
And so that's basically what we do. So we've created a training program for people to use what now I realize is a global personal brand,
Right.
And so using that to reach your goals
Right.
as the 21st century work and life skill that it is.
And so, as you mentioned, I mean, there really is this this importance of using social technologies in your online presence, and I noticed that you have a rather holistic approach in building an online presence. And so, I was looking at that on your website, and was wondering if you can highlight, what this really includes, and what you see really is that first step that one needs to take in order to build their presence online, because there's so much stuff out there and a lot of people don't even know where to begin. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, the two things, I think there's sort of two worlds that collide when we go online. And one of them is sort of our internal world and like who we are and what we hope to do with our life and, finding out about ourselves. And then the other world is how do we connect with, the world outside, like who are those people and how do we want them to see us.
Right.
So one is sort of personal discovery and the other is professional expression. And when those worlds come together, then you have what I call your global niche, which is basically your wider world, and it's a place where you're actually connected to who you want to be connected to,
Right.
and those people carry opportunities with them to do what it is you want to do.
Right.
And so the one of the sort of the engines of this idea of a holistic online presence is your content, that you actually not only exist on the web, but you share things on the web. And by sharing what you care about, you actually attract people who also care about that. And those are your people.
Right, right. They become that community, so to speak, or that tribe, for lack of a better word. But
because you don't do anything alone. None of us do anything alone.
Exactly. It's one of the things that I find, at least for my work in personal branding, particularly here in Japan, where there is this sense of, well, it's only about me, me, and it's kind of really like forcing people to realize that choice between me versus we really is a false choice. That actually, what I like to see it as, it's two things. It is your ability to kind of communicate that authentic value that you bring, but more importantly, it's that community's capability of magnifying who you are, whether it's through the content that you produce, where it's your how you define your presence online and offline, etc. But as you said, it is that community. We don't do it alone, and if we think that we're doing it alone, that's kind of perhaps the path that we don't want to be going down. So I think that's very important. I like how you say that.
Yeah, we don't exist in a vacuum, and also we need to collaborate, and we
Right.
want to collaborate with people that we enjoy and people who understand us, because there's a shortcut there, and there's energy released, when we're around people who understand us. And I think that everyone has had that experience of
Right.
really meeting a like mind. You really feel like, that you can do this.
Exactly.
And so it's about your potential, unleashing your potential by
Right.
pursuing what you care about, and in a public fashion.
Right.
And also by being vulnerable about it. That's the other element of it, is that if you are ironclad, like, oh, you can't touch this, well, you're not going to get many people who want to be anywhere near you, because you're kind of like way up there,
Sure.
or they don't really know who you are inside.
Exactly. Now, this might be a nice lead into my next question, but what would you say are your top two tips that you would give someone who is really trying to communicate their personal brand, that global personal brand across cultures, and really any pitfalls that we should be aware of when we do this?
Well, I think that probably when you come to, anyone who has experienced crossing culture, even, in person, one of the things is to go slowly and start simply, because you need to get the lay of the land. Like if you barge in, then there's a lot of explaining and apologies and things later, that when you're, and withholding judgment, I guess, suspending judgment. So go slow, but also start sharing what you can in ways that, to me, one of the best ways cross-culturally is not using words, because people don't know your vocabulary. People don't read like a big block of text.
Right.
Maybe use an image, and maybe use an image of something you like. And, if it's a pretty flower or, whatever, beautiful colors, or, try to use some non-verbal ways of communicating.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's my former life, working with people in cross cultural contexts, etc. It is that idea of suspending judgment, and it's a hard thing to do because I mean we're, as people, that's the first thing we do. We like to judge things. We like to say why something should be better or that's not how it should be, and yet really sitting back, as you're saying, and kind of take things slowly, absorb, and then react based on that, I think is a much better approach as well. I like to call it kind of what I've been using recently is like kind of a personal branding style dial, and how do you use this dial and kind of switch, kind of adjust who you are based on the situation and context that you're in. And sometimes you have to be more of this and less of that, but it doesn't mean that you're giving up necessarily who you are.
Yeah. You exist on a spectrum, and yeah, you should have some facility with that to pick and choose, well, who am I today? Or, is this the, situation where I come, boom, that's me, maybe
Right.
not. Maybe that won't be
Exactly.
so good.
Exactly. So now I've dubbed you as one of my new mechanics of personal branding. As I mentioned earlier in the call, this is a series that I've started where I'm highlighting individuals like yourself who have these tools and techniques that really help any one of us to build, maintain, and even repair our personal brands. Now, part of my personal brand is cycling. I'm a huge cyclist, and I even incorporate cycling imagery and ideas into my own personal branding work. So I'm going to use a cycling analogy here with you. I want you to imagine that someone's personal brand has a flat tire. And what advice would you give this person so they can really pump up that tire and get their brand riding again?
Well, I guess the first thing that you would do at a flat tire is first find out where it's leaking. Because that's where you need to patch it. You don't
Right.
need to replace the whole tire, but you do need to stop, the loss that's taking place.
Right.
And so I guess the first thing would be about resonance. That where is this not working? Where does this not seem like you? And you may not be the person who can find that out. Usually you'll put a tire in water, so
Right.
you'll see the air bubbles coming up because you can't, with your naked eye, see air coming out of a tiny hole.
Right.
So I would suggest asking the people who know you really well, who've worked with you, who know all different kinds of like views of you. And I think that you mentioned that you have a certificate from the Reach branding, and I
Yes.
think that they make I think it's reachcc.com
Yes. Yes.
has a 360-degree, like 15-day free personal brand service. So
Right.
that would be a great place to start because it's free and you just send this email to
Yeah.
all of your friends and they pick things and you can compare it to what you think your brand is, and then you can see, oh my God, I think I'm a leader, and they say, I'm just a team player, and so
Right.
maybe I'm misrepresenting myself.
Yeah, exactly. I loved how you tackled that question by going right to the strategy that anybody would use to try to find the leak in the tire by putting it in the water, and I love that because you're so right. Trying to find it by not doing that is an act of frustration. As you said, you really can't see it, and looking for ways that you can either ask others to help you to do that. And one more thing is, I love what you said about you don't have to throw away the entire tire. It can be repaired. And so you don't have to start from scratch. You can just really fix that small area that maybe needs to be fixed and then to really move on. So definitely wonderful. And thank you also for bringing up the idea of going to Reach Personal Branding and doing that for that 15-day 360 Reach Personal Brand Survey, because it is a wonderful way to get started to understand, the initial understanding of how people see you and how you see yourself and where there are gaps or what have you. So definitely.
Right.
Well, is there anything new in the works for you? I don't know, you're working on a new book? Are you creating some new wonderful thing that you can highlight for us, or what's going on?
Yeah, no new book. Although I did have an idea for a book today, and so I might do something about that. But I think the main thing is that at Global Niche, our program is now available for people who want to do it as interest groups. That we're going to put private study groups together for
Great.
people, like a book club or some group of people that you usually get together with and try to figure out problems, ways to solve your problems. This is a program you could do with them.
Wonderful,
So
wonderful.
this is a new way of doing the program.
And
And
that
it's
would
an online thing, so you can do it with your people, wherever they happen to be.
great, great. And so that would be, if people are interested in that, they would just go to globalniche.net.
Yes,
Okay, and I'll make
exactly.
sure that we put the site here on the video as well, and et cetera. And going back to the book that you wrote before is, can you give us the title of the book again?
It's called Tales from the Expat Harem, and it's an anthology by foreign women about their lives in modern Turkey.
Oh, very cool, very cool. So that's another great resource. And if people want to stay in touch with you, what do you prefer? Through your website,
Uh,
through Twitter, or
yeah,
what's the online presence for you?
I'm a Twitter proponent. I also have my own website, but I'm just getting it started again. So I would say Twitter, and Anastasia Ashman is my Twitter handle.
Okay.
So I'll see you out there.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much for being part of my
Peter,
series here, and best of luck to you. And hey, if I'm ever in the Bay Area, I'll definitely look you up. We'll go grab a cup of coffee and talk some more.
please do. Please
All
do.
right. Well, thank you so much. Take care, and
Thank you.
we'll talk soon.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.